So today's session is showing you how to make a chicken stock, a brown chicken stock, and from that we're going to reduce it down to make a jus to go with a chicken dish or whatever particular meat dish you want it to go with. So we're going to start off with our basic ingredients. I've deboned a chicken, and in here are the bones that have come from it. So there's the bones of one whole chicken there. On the tray here I've got some mirepoix of vegetable, so a couple of sticks of celery, some roughly cut onion, a couple of carrots just sliced up quite roughly, and there's about half a leek there just cut into circles. And I've got some red wine, no particular set amount, but about 200 millilitres I would say. And then I've got a dessert spoonful of tomato puree. So now we've got all the ingredients together for the stock. Our first thing that we're going to do after that is to roast these bones. We want to get as much brown colour on them as we possibly can, and then we'll get a much better colour on our stock, and then ultimately in our jus as well, the finished jus. So these bones go into the oven. They don't need anything on them at all, just as they are. And they're going in at about 200 degrees, and they'll probably take about 30 minutes to get really nice and golden brown. If they're not golden brown, the finished stock and the jus won't be as good. So plenty of colour on them. Half an hour, just go back to check them. If you think they need longer, put them in for a little bit longer. So now the bones are in the oven, we can now concentrate on cooking these vegetables, and again we need to colour them. So better the colour, better the finished product. So in this pan here, I've just started to warm it slightly. I'm going to pop a little bit of vegetable oil, not too much or else our finished stock will be really fatty. So we put a minimum amount of fat in there as we possibly can, and then we just put simply a good handful of each of these vegetables that we've got, and we're looking to brown them so they've got a really nice golden brown colour on them. However, they must not go black. Okay? If they go black, the finished stock will be bitter and the finished sauce will be bitter and be ruined. So we need to keep a really close eye on them, stirring them constantly till they're golden brown. So as I said before, you need to keep stirring this constantly, keep a really close eye on it, just making sure that it goes brown and not black. We're sort of maybe a quarter of the way through cooking. There's no colour on there yet, but I'm hopeful that if I just be really patient with it, we're going to end up with a colour similar to this all over the vegetables. So these vegetables have been browning for about 20 minutes. As you can see, there's a really nice colour on them, really nice and golden brown. So the next thing I'm going to put in there is some red wine. And we're going to put enough in there so that it has the chance to reduce. So I think I mentioned earlier on about 150, 200 millilitres, and I'm going to pop that in and reduce it. So the red wine goes in, being really careful. But as you can see, it starts to reduce straight away and causes quite a bit of steam. And we're going to reduce that down so that there's virtually none left. So it's probably going to take about 5 minutes for it to simmer really rapidly until there's virtually no liquid left. So I don't know whether you can see properly or not, but all that wine's reduced right down. There's just the tiniest amount left in there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to put in is a dessert spoon of tomato puree. Make sure you get it all off the spoon, and then stir that in, but stir it in off the heat. We don't want that tomato puree to burn on the bottom of the pan. So make sure you mix it really in so that it's really well combined. And then the next step is we're going to fill this with cold water and fill the pan up to about 3/4. And the reason that I say 3/4 is because we've got bones to go in here yet. So the weight of the bones in the pan will make the water displace, and it'll probably just come up to about the rim of the pan if we just put 3/4 of water in. So the chicken bones have been in the oven for approximately 20-30 minutes maybe. You can see they're a really nice golden brown colour all over. They're ready to go into the stock. So now the browned bones can go carefully into our 3/4 filled stock pan. Just shaking off any excess fat as they come out of the roasting tray. And then this stock goes onto the boil for about an hour and a half. So we want it to simmer just really gently, just on the stove top. not boiling rapidly, just a gentle boil. So our tray that's had the bones in, really important, is that we're going to get all this brown from there and put it into the stock. It's going to have some really good flavour. But most important first is we drain off all the fat that's in there as well, because you can see there's quite a lot of fat coming from those bones, and we get as much of that as we can out. So we get the tray nice and hot, and then into there we're going to put some red wine. And this technique is called deglazing. So all that brown that's on the bottom of the tray, rather than our kitchen porter being left to do it, or whoever's washing up, we're going to get it all off there for them and give them back when they're washing up an almost clean tray. In there's lots and lots of flavour, so it's important that we get it out. But important also that we don't burn this bottom bit of the pan, or else it'll give us a bitter flavour in our finished stock. So I'm happy now that I've got all the brown from the bottom of the tray. The red wine's done its job, I've deglazed it, and any residue now, we're going to pour that into our stock that's simmering away there, and then just leave that to cook, but looking after it all the time. So by looking after our stock, I mean on a regular basis, we're skimming any excess fat or scum from the outside, just with a ladle and just into a jug at the side. And we're going to do this about every maybe 15 or 20 minutes. It's really important for the clarity of the stock. If we don't do this, we'll end up with a really cloudy stock, and in the end that'll affect the colour of our jus and the clarity of our jus. So this stock has been on for about an hour and a half, 90 minutes. I've looked after it by skimming it, as I said earlier on in the video, and I'm happy that it's got a really nice colour on it, and I'm ready to pass the bones and any other ingredients out into this sieve so that I just capture the liquid. So being really careful through the finest sieve that you can find, we want to pass out all that liquid, getting as much out as we can, just being really careful because these bones may well just fall out and just splash us. Careful you don't splash yourself. And then I'm just going to give that a little tap. That just gets rid of any excess liquid. And I'm just going to leave that to drain there just for a few minutes. So I've discarded all the ingredients, all the bones, vegetables, etc. All I'm left with is this liquid, which has got a little bit of fat on top, but I'm happy that this is going to make a really lovely jus. So that's our chicken stock complete.